Vinny Chopra here, weekly show. As many of you know, my book is the sequel to my Apartment Syndication Made Easy book that I wrote last year. My friend and very good friend is my guest today, Whitney Sewell. You're going to have so much fun with, Whitney, having Whitney here. Of course, the Spanish version also is doing quite well. And I just came up, Whitney, with my second book, buddy. Positivity Brings Possibility. Thank you. And I'm just blessed to have you today with me. And it's just a pleasure to have Whitney Sewell. I mean, most everybody knows him very well. But let me kind of introduce you. Today's title, suggestion we are saying is Tips to Building a Successful Brand, a podcast, a real estate investing business, all while giving back. That's the title, my team put together. And Whitney, it's such a pleasure. Let me introduce you, buddy. Whitney is the founder of Life Bridge Capital LLC and hosts the Real Estate Syndication Show, a daily podcast, guys. Listen again, daily podcast. And where he has interviewed over 700 experts providing cutting edge tools and strategies of the syndication business. And as you know, I've lived my life 14 years in syndication. And I remember when Whitney mentioned it, I said, oh my gosh, I'm in it, for you, because Joe Fairless is another chap, right? Very good person. And, who has done well with the daily show. And it's got a lot of great guests, but Whitney has just done so well. Proud of you, Whitney. It's such a pleasure. And Whitney works with investors to improve their investment returns. He's got almost over 600 doors now. So proud of you. And also close to 100 million in portfolios. So that's exciting. All these things, when you're giving so much back to everybody, it comes back in many fold. As I'm sure many of you have experienced that, and you'll experience it today as Whitney gives us some great nuggets. He works with an exceptional opportunity that multifamily syndications offer. He and his wife, Chelsea, I've known Chelsea a little bit, have 3 adopted children, 2 boys, and a new baby girl. Congratulations, Whitney.
Thank you, Vinny.
Chelsea, yes. Their motto is to making a difference, one investor, one child at a time. And investors receive exceptional returns financially while impacting the life of orphans and families. Welcome to the show, brother. It's such a pleasure.
It is such a pleasure, Vinny. I know you and I were just reminiscing a little bit about when you and I first met, and it's such an honor now to be on your show. I don't know if that was like 3 or 4 years ago that we first had that first phone call, but yes, honor to be here.
How did that happen? I know you called me and something about in the afternoon or evening.
It was, I remember I was listening to podcasts. I'd been in real estate, but small multifamily for a few years, just learning about the syndication business, had no clue what that was at the time, and didn't even realize that was a possibility. But I heard you on a podcast, and you were probably one of the first ones I ever heard, like, put their phone number out at the end. And I thought, well, why not call? So I called you, and I'll never forget, I was actually at a real estate meetup late. It was really late one night, and maybe I left you a message. I can't remember, but you called me back, and I remember being at that meetup and us having it. I think you were in the middle of having dinner even or something, but just very generous with your time. I was so impressed just by your willingness to help somebody that was just getting started in the syndication business at that time. So thanks again, Vinny, and just being so personable and so humble and willing to help.
Oh, thank you, Whitney. And what you have done for me, you've inspired me and thousands of people now over the last 700 shows that you've done and interviewed guests. And, you're going stronger and stronger, and with your brand and all the things. So let me ask you a question. So how did you really get into real estate? Maybe give us some, and where did you grow up? And I'm sure everybody would like to know Whitney, yeah.
I would love to share some of that with you, Vinny. And really, it was back, and I'll go back a little bit after high school, just a couple things that happened that I felt like is important that instilled kind of my mindset to where I'm at now. But it was March of 2001. And it was at that time I decided to join the military. I had no idea as a career what I was going to do, but I just felt like that was the right thing to do. But of course, I had no idea that in just a few months, our nation would be at war, right? And I would be spending a year of my life, in Iraq, toting around a machine gun, of course, praying every day I would get to go home. And thankfully that, that military though taught me to have just a never give up mentality. There's times I can remember being on ruck marches, and even whether it's boot camp or whether it was a year overseas, there's just times you can't quit. It's not an option, to quit. Right. And so I feel like the military really helped me just have that mindset. And I just had to have that. I came home and was still trying to figure out what I was going to do. And from military, I enjoyed the structure and the discipline. And I became a police officer. Out of 1,200 applicants, only 5 positions. I was blessed to have one of those with Kentucky State Police. And but that that still though, as much as I loved working the road as a police officer, that was making, in the mid 30s, 30,000 a year, something like that, and there were guys retiring that were making like 40,000 a year, and I was like, it finally hit me that, okay, long term, it's just not what's best, and so that's what initially pushed me into real estate. And that was in 2009. And that's when we bought a few small rentals, but eventually got tired of looking for more tenants and toilets, right? And I was introduced to the syndication business just through podcasts, just like when I was talking about and I heard you speaking on. But I couldn't believe that I hadn't known about this so many years earlier, right? I enjoyed the structure and discipline. I believe this was a business model that I could scale. And so we jumped in completely. And to back up just a little bit, I'd always had a passion of riding and training horses. And most people in this industry don't know this, but I was a professional horse trainer for a while. We had a farm. Yeah, most people don't know that, but I had a farm. We had a farm. My wife and I had always dreamed of having a farm and a place. And I was training horses professionally as well. But, I realized also that was never going to be passive. And I was making good money doing that, but obviously very labor intensive. But it was never going to be passive. I was always going to have to be the one there doing that. It was never going to be able to scale like I wanted. And so finally, my wife and I had peace. We were on a beach one fall, and we were just praying and walking, and the Lord just gave us peace about selling the farm and selling everything. And so we did. And the Lord just really blessed that. I mean, we sold that place. We downsized drastically, but ultimately so we could pursue another adoption because they're so expensive. But then also so I could just be focused on the syndication business. I mean, completely. And so I blocked all that other stuff out. And I think that was one of the keys too in us moving forward and the success that we've had quickly is just selling that and just staying very, very focused at that time. But it wasn't long after that obviously we started the daily podcast. And like you said, we've interviewed over 700 experts now in the business, and it's been nothing short of just extremely time consuming, obviously. And to make that happen, we were working full time. We were still doing deals. We were still having to keep up with investor relations and family and adoption. And we moved 3 times during the last 2 years, and
Wow.
just all kinds of stuff happening. And I say that so the listener knows you too can do it. It's very doable. It's not easy, but it can be done. But that podcast has it's given us such an arm to meet, like you, Vinny. Obviously, we've had you on the show numerous times, and it's allowed you and I to get to know each other better amongst almost 700 more people now in the industry, and allowed me to educate myself further and ask people just like you questions, right? That I've got at the time. I get to ask the experts, what they're doing about this or how they did these things. And so it's just grown us tremendously and very fast. I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but also my wife and I we were listening to a pastor talk one time, and he was talking about how they had adopted and how there are over 160 million orphans in the world, and it can cost $40,000 to $60,000 to bring a child home, and that we just couldn't believe it. But we had never been exposed to adoption, but on our way home, Vinny, Chelsea and I, all we could think about was, why would we not adopt? you know, we just couldn't think of a good reason why we wouldn't pursue adoption. So within a week, we turned in our application to adopt from Ethiopia. 2 years later, our first son Samuel came home. A year later, our second son Elijah came home through adoption, and then just about a year ago, our third child Eden Joy, our daughter, came home through adoption as well. But that, you know, that's become our big why, our big mission behind Life Bridge Capital, you know, and helping other families just with that financial burden. We are in the process, I know you, Vinny, but I know you know this, but just starting our own nonprofit so we can really partner with families, you know, in a big way as well.
People work. I'm ready for it. Yeah. I want to,
Thank you. Yeah. So it's just become a big, obviously our big why and our big mission. And that's been a big part of our branding as well. We didn't have that planned in the beginning, and I'm happy to go into that, but you know, because of the podcast and because of just diving in there really and staying very committed and consistent has helped us to launch to where we're at now. Like you said, over 600 doors and almost $100 million in assets, you know, under management, you know, just in a short period of time.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, Whitney, you mentioned about mindset. You just talked about, you know, getting focused. And I think that's so important in our life. I mean, you know, we can move mountains, I call, right? If we just have that strong willpower and that gumption that, you know, we want something that badly, things happen. I mean, the roadblocks get outside, you know, I mean, you are able to climb the mountains, I say many times, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Mindset is so crucial. And often, you know, I would go to conferences and I would hear people talk about mindset, and that would be when I would shut out and say, hey, you know, let's get to the meat and potatoes, and, you know, let's, you know, give me some actionable steps. Right. But I was very wrong about that. And I knew in military it was so important, but I wasn't applying it to our business yet. And it was not till then that really things started to change. And, you know, I was just completely committed then. But also I would say selling our farm was a big thing for me, and it allowed me to just stay focused. I built an office in our basement. We've moved since then, but I built an office in the basement, and I called it kind of like my dungeon. I mean, it was just a place for me to just knock things out and just be very focused. You know, it was a difficult time because it was working, you know, 15 to 18 hours a day, many days a week. But just knowing that, okay, you know, if that's what it takes, let's get it done. Let's just keep moving forward.
I love it. I love it. Moving the needle, I call it, right? Action steps. And, you know, I just wanted to mention it since I just had a very good guest speaker come to my master coaching class on Wednesday. His name is Luke Wren, W-R-E-N. Actually, he's connected with Tony Robbins. You know, he's very, and, you know, he talks about setting the mind, you know, who we are and what we are about and what's our vision. And that's what you really depict right now. You know, you had the vision. You and Chelsea had the vision to be, you know, to put those extra hours and to get your, you know, life in order and get the adoption process started, which really was the big why. And a lot of times in our life, we drift away. We go away into very meaningless, you know, places, to be truthful, unless we really hunker down and see what's important to us, you know. And I'm so proud, you know, what you have accomplished. And so tell me about your branding. I mean, I'm just so fascinated, you know, how you have really taken the bull by the horn and how your VAs are helping. And if somebody, you know, brand new wants to kind of, you know, build a brand, what would you teach them or share with them? Some of the things.
Yeah. You know, it's really in our industry, and we've seen it done numerous times, but I'd seen one other daily podcast, and obviously, you know, you had mentioned Joe, I've seen his success, and I thought, okay, you know, there's no reason in reinventing the wheel here. But I knew it was going to take a lot of work. Right. And you do have to realize the commitment and make sure you can commit to it. No doubt about it. Cause it's just taken a ton of time. But, you know, obviously, and I know you would agree with this, Vinny, as much as anybody, but being as professional as possible at all times is, I mean, it's just been crucial. And I've put a lot of weight on that, you know, and whether you're at a conference or whether it's on your website or whether it's on social media, it's always just how you present yourself and, you know, presenting yourself as professional as possible. But, you know, getting started, I try to tell people, don't make it too complicated. You know, because making it overly complicated or even thinking that it has to be perfect, you're liable to never get started. And that's the worst part. The worst thing is if you don't get started, But having a website first, and obviously some type of way to collect emails is one of the first things, most people need. And just having a couple of emails after that is, a kind of a drip campaign that investor can get. And then following up, is such crucial. But as far as the branding piece, having a thought leadership platform is just nearly a must in this industry, because investors have to know you, right, before they can trust you. And that's allowed me to build credibility and meet so many people in this industry. It's allowed me to, obviously, like you said, 700 people, now that I'm connected with that I wasn't connected with, just a couple of years ago. And so lots of relationships come out of those things. Lots of investors come out of those, just the interactions through a podcast. But, by doing that, you're placing yourself at the front of the room, right? I mean, you are becoming the perceived expert, whether you are or not. I mean, you are the perceived expert, and more times than not, you are an expert in your field or in certain parts of the business. And there's people that you can help. But ultimately, figuring out what my thought leadership platform was going to be and figuring out how to be very consistent. We did build teams. I decided to do the daily podcast, and Vinny, it took me spending lots of time building those processes and building that team before I ever launched. I remember when I think you were my first or second interview in the very beginning. I mean, the first one maybe, and I remember that day. I think I did 3 interviews, and I was so nervous, right? And I was trying to figure out, all my systems and get all this stuff down so I can get those interviews. The next day, I think I did 5, and then I did maybe 8 interviews the third day. But that just really was almost trial by fire, just throwing myself in there, and I had to figure it out. And now I'll do 8 or 15 in a day, and I don't really think much about it. But that's, it's all about being consistent. You don't have to do that many to have a successful podcast or brand. But that's what I chose. But you do have to have a system, but website, some type of thought leadership platform, some way for people to know who you are.
So true. So true. Whitney, and like you said, people do want to trust you. They want to see who you are and what background you have and how you're learning, getting into this business or whichever business we are, and what are you doing, writing about it, educating people, I call it that way also, right? So writing some blogs and having great website, like you said, having squeeze page, maybe a lead magnet, right?
Right.
Talk about in my academy, just a small ebook, and you could put that together, whatever your avatar is, I call it, right? You need to figure it out what market you're going after, is passive investors or for buying the property in certain number and so forth like that.
Right.
What areas of emerging markets, kind of educating people about that. And again, just get started. I think that's one thing I just picked up from you. Don't perfect. I'm a perfectionist by nature, but I've molded myself not to be a perfectionist anymore, because
Yes.
I can get so much more done now because I can prioritize and just take care of the top A, B, C, D, and let the rest, they're not important, right?
Right. That's right. I was so worried about my audio before I actually started recording. We were renting a house as we were trying to move to town. And in the house, you could hear my boys were a couple years younger now, and they would love to train their stick horses up and down the hallway, right? And I'm thinking, there's no way I can record here. And I was talking to another guy who's very successful in this business as well, had a very successful podcast, and he just said, Whitney, he said, I interviewed Robert Kiyosaki sitting in my Toyota Camry. And that was just what I needed, right? Like a good kick in the pants, really, to say, let's get this going. Let's not make it too complicated.
I appreciate that. Actually, I was interviewing, I would love to say, a good friend of mine, Amy Wan, our SEC attorney,
Yes.
Bootstrap, and she was so cute. Oh my gosh. When we got on the Zoom, she was in her closet. I said,
Right.
oh my gosh, what happened? She says, Vinny, I wanted to keep my commitment. I really appreciated it. I've got a guest full of people. She says, I thought the closet would be the best place. And it's so great. I think the big thing is we should take ourselves not too seriously. I mean, a lot of time we build these big things in our mind and we say we are this, we are that, but we are just regular people. And that's what is really excites me, that, one should be so approachable, because that is the real essence of life. to be not worried about small stuff. There was a book too, actually, somebody gave me, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I thought that was amazing, because I used to be very meticulous about a lot of stuff and things like that. Like you just said, interviewing Robert Kiyosaki in, Camry, right? What will it take? Why not? Why not? So be yourself. I hope everybody listening, you could really build your brand if you have not done so starting today. Don't worry where you have come from, if you're done or not. Many times we just, badger ourselves is the word, or we scold ourselves mentally or physically or whatever, why I'm not where I should be. But I always believe today is the moment, right? You could change the state today and you can move in the right direction. Yeah. So
make the decision. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me more about adoption nonprofit you have started, right? Share with us. I mean, it's very fascinating what you're doing to help other parents, I guess.
Yes.
Also, right? Yeah.
Yes. It's just, we've been through the process 4 times. Unfortunately, we had a failed placement once and we lost, like almost $30,000 through that process. And so, but the family that, most families that want to adopt, they don't have that kind of capital just sitting around, right? And so it's a big process for them to learn to raise some money and reach out to friends and try to find that money so they can bring their child home. And so that adds so much stress to the process. And Chelsea and I will have calls with families often that are looking to adopt. And a big thing when we, they want to know, well, how much is it going to cost? And so we talk through some of that, and their immediate response is, well, that's more than I make in a year, or, how can we do that? So we talk about different ways they can fundraise and different ways we were successful at that, but it's such a burden in that process. And many times we'll just turn families away that would make great parents. Right. And so that just really made us want to help those families. The Lord just really has blessed our business now. And we've committed half of our profits personally to this nonprofit now that we're starting that will just help families in the process. So, families will be able to apply, to receive help financially if they've committed to the process, and they can, obviously go through a process of ours, but get help financially so they can commit and they can bring their child home. But yeah, so we've, like I said, we've done it 4 times through the process, and $40,000 to $60,000 each time. And it's very difficult. And it's such a burden to, it's such a great thing that's going to happen. And so that's why we're doing it. That's a big why behind Life Bridge Capital.
I love that. Love that. Totally. And maybe somebody's listening to us also. Maybe they might be able to embrace this same concept and to be able to get in touch with my friend Whitney. I think this is a worldwide cause. I really believe. And also maybe we might send signals out. I always believe in law of attraction, where maybe there are certain agencies who can reduce the cost of adoption. Yes. So I really foresee that you and Chelsea be the beacon, to really spread the education and the things to avoid, right?
Right.
Put together some ebooks and maybe even writing a book. I really believe in writing books. My 3rd book is coming out on, apartment loans, creative loans made easy. Then my 4th book is coming out, which is actually investing, in senior living, which is my new passion to really bring about the best of the best, the luxury senior living ground up, which is very, very exciting to me. I'm a senior. I'm 68 next week, actually, 68.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it.
68 years young, that's for sure.
68 years young. I totally believe I'm 28. I tell my wife, I said, I get up at 4:35. I'm just ready to take on the world, because it's best to really enjoy what you're doing. Because if we are not doing something that we don't like, it's time to move to the things which we really, really want to, enjoy and have happiness and bliss and time with the family. Like in COVID, we are recording in COVID. It has just given, I'm sure, your family, your time with the family, a lot more things that I have done also, and some people have taken it in a different way, but some people have really utilized that time. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yes, for sure. For sure. No doubt about it.
So let me ask you a question, like, what can you share with branding? Like we talked about, our show, as the podcast, real estate investing, branding. What are your comments to some budding investors? How many people how should they start with the teams, I guess? If maybe we can, go
Yeah.
that.
Teams, as far as with branding, that's your question, right? Teams and branding, how we utilize teams. And initially it was, I had 4 VAs that were all over the world that were helping me with the podcast. And each of them would do, I mean, ultimately I just created a Google Doc, like an Excel sheet, and I created all the tasks that needed to happen, right, in order across the top. And I even color coded them per, the team member that was going to be doing that task, right? And then I would have all the guest names down the side, and and we just had to work everybody through this process, right? And then my assistant and I could watch those things happen, right, and make sure that they were happening. But building that team was difficult, right? And so it's finding somebody that specialized in each of those things, whatever we needed done. And that's changed obviously over time. But I would say initially, if you're just getting started, it just doesn't need to be that complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And for me, you are going to be doing most things yourself in the beginning, but doing a daily podcast, I knew I could not edit all the shows and edit the video and get them all posted. So I had to have those people right away. If you're doing a daily or a weekly show or even a bi-weekly show, you may start by editing the audio and video yourself, or maybe you find somebody to help you with just that task or show notes. But those were some of the first few team members that I had to have. But I would say bigger than those was my executive assistant. And it was just a crucial hire for me. And I'm hiring somebody else now for that position. So just in case anybody's listening, that's qualified.
They can be anywhere. Are you thinking
right,
in USA or abroad, or what do you think?
I would prefer my executive assistant is probably in the States, just because they have so much access to everything about me, and we just work very closely. So it's nice if they're close to the same time zone as well, because we're communicating so often. But most everything else, I'm fine with hiring abroad, in other places. But also that person has a lot of access to, say, investor information and things like that. And so I just prefer that person to be in the States. I do a background check on them, things like that, just in case investor ever asks to, like, they're the only other person that has access to that information, and whatnot. But team is so important. I would also add to that, like knowing you, and you briefly mentioned this earlier too, like knowing your focus. What's your focus in the industry going to be? What's your specialty going to be? Because mine, it became the investor relations and branding and obviously all that. And when I found a business partner who was more focused, say, on the numbers and underwriting and acquisitions, that's when we really took off. He needed my specialty and I needed his, but neither of us could do both, things well. And so that has really just helped us to take off in a big way. I mean, he's very specialized and so am I. And we both know that we can't, but either of us do everything. So that's probably one of my most important team members. But Vinny, I always like to talk about a team member or a few that's usually never talked about, and that's been so important to our success. And that's Chelsea. That's my wife. And because we were, it was me taking calls from 5 to 7 a.m. before work. And when I get home at 4:30, I would be taking more calls and doing interviews, and I'd miss most meals with the family. And she has been so faithful to, pretty much run the entire house for the last 3 years while I've been just working, and growing that brand and that business. So, I would say make sure your family is on board. Make sure you're painting that vision for them. And I can't say I always did a great job at that, but I tried to get them to understand, and visualize where we're going, like where they see us at. So those long nights when dad's not there for many meals through the week, they can remember where we're going, why we're working so hard. I just think that's very important. And I consider them team members as well, and my kids.
So true what you just said, that Whitney. Oh my gosh, I remember Neil and Monica, they're back there. They're older now, in the 30s, but when they were young, in my motivation speaking days and all that, I remember Neil coming and I still have that picture, in the waste paper basket. He'll drop himself in there, to catch my attention, and, Monica coming and sitting on the lap and all those things. So those are so important things, because we are not alone. We talk about teams as the business people, but our family is so far, so much involved in everything that we do. So true. And, you're blessed to have married a beautiful, beautiful woman, Chelsea, and Kanchan, my wife. This year we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, 40. So
Congratulations. That's such an accomplishment.
thank you. Thank you. So it's so important. I think, what you just said, if our audience can take that one big step, how are you doing with your family? How are you getting their respect? And how are you involving them in your vision? Because see, your vision is so important for you, but they need to be the vision of the family, because that's what is going to propel you to the next level. When the happy wife, happy life, we talk.
So true.
And then, the thing is, when we are working hard and getting up early, like you said, Whitney, it just makes so much fun that the spouse is thinking, it's all for the good reasons. It's all for our betterment and the lifestyle and all the things we want to accomplish. So definitely. Let me share ask you, Whitney, what else would you say to early investors or budding investors, what they should start with or how to avoid the pitfalls? Let's just say that,
If they're an operator or becoming an operator?
They want to buy some and they want to get 2-3 people together to buy their first property.
Yes.
What kind of, knowledge or, some ideas you will give them? Yeah.
Yeah. One key thing that comes to my mind is having a mentor, and like yourself, Vinny, I know you're mentoring many people, and it's such an important part of this business. And there's so many different things we could talk about, whether it's underwriting or whether it's the location or emerging markets. All right. But way back before that, you can't know it all. I mean, and you don't know what you don't know, and it's a complex business. But find, it doesn't have to be a paid mentorship, but you need a mentor. You need somebody that's been there and done that. You need somebody that you can call on, because you're going to have questions, no doubt about it. And having somebody that's on your side that can that's been there and it's like no big deal, it can just shoot you in the right direction, it makes all the difference in the world. You do have to present yourself professionally. You do have to brand yourself to some degree, or you need to, but ultimately you need a mentor. If I can say, even if it is a paid mentorship, it's very worthwhile. I mean, one deal is going to be worth it. Right. But I hear people say, oh, I don't want to spend the money on a mentor. I think I can figure it out myself. And to me, that's scary to me. Like, you don't have any mentors. Like, it's like me saying I'm going to go build a car. It's not going to happen. Or you're not going to want to ride in it. That's for sure.
So true. And, people who have been there, they can show you the blueprint. They can show you the path, with what the pitfalls they went through.
Right.
Save you the thousands of dollars, like you said, for doing one mistake. Or I know the biggest thing, if I remember 14 years back, was 14 units that I bought. I mean, we were sweating bullets, did we buy that $180,000 property or not, And our coach, really great coach. He was able to weekly meet with us and kind of, keep us accountable. I thought that was the other thing I remember very distinctly. And, we had that coaching sessions for maybe a year, my partner and I, and that's the reason, it got us flying. It's like your bird is born, right? The feathers are there, but you can't fly yet. And you need somebody to give you that push so that you can get that first one, and I'm so proud to say from $180,000 to $52 million last year. That we bought, and then 35, and I'm in contract right now for 35 million in Austin, Texas, which we are really excited with 4 projects of senior living and all. I mean, senior living. I was going to ask you about that. Have you interviewed anybody in your great show who is connected with senior living, a luxury senior living? That's what I'm kind of gotten into.
Yeah, I haven't. Maybe I've had 1 or 2 people, but not so much like luxury senior living, especially ground up, some like you're doing. Yeah, well, I got to get you back on, Vinny.
Oh, okay. I'd love to come. I'm so excited because we have 10,000 baby boomers, as you know, turning 65 every night in USA. So silver tsunami is coming. There's a huge demand for independent living, of course, assisted living, rehab center, nursing homes.
Sure.
We have kind of cleaned up our path to not go into the first part or the last part where a lot more restrictions are there, doctors, rehabs. I know COVID deaths are coming from there. It's so sad to hear that. We just have taken the assisted living side with memory care. So we are only in that phase, which is less restrictive, and also where parents are involved, children are involved when they are in the age of 80 or so, 80, 85, 90 to 100 years of age, to give them most respectful, more luxurious lifestyle for a very reasonable price. So that's what my partner and he's been doing it. He's done 23 of them. Look at
Wow.
that. Gosh, here I'm Vinny Chopra has done 0, but you have become partners,
Right.
and it's just going so well because he's perfected the system, and I can raise the money. So we are just joined together, and we are actually doing one close to you, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to learn more about that one. Yeah.
Ground over there. I'll send you the little packet. We
Please.
raised already all the money we need, but then just now Cape Coral, we just finished that one. I'll send you a movie on that one, and we are breaking ground. We already broke ground for Punta Gorda, 26 miles away. So this way, like that, and maybe North Carolina. That's where you are, right?
I'm in Virginia. Yeah, I'm not far from there.
Virginia. Hold on. So Williamsburg, how far is that from you, bud?
It's about 4 hours.
Oh, 4 hours. Okay, that's far. Yeah. But no, it's been such a tremendous time with you, Whitney. Any other lasting nuggets you want to share? Towards the end here, our broadcast, and then
I know we're focused on branding. I know, you were asking me about branding, and just a couple of things I was thinking about. Was just thinking about consistency, and I know we highlighted that it doesn't have to be perfect. And I would say if you go back and listen to my first shows, you can tell I'm nervous. You can tell, all those things, right? But if I didn't get started, I would have never got to that 20th episode or that 50th episode or that 100th, where it just starts to flow more and you figure out your systems. But you just have to get started. And I just say reach out and ask people for help. I reached out to Vinny, I don't know how many years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago, and made that call. Of course, I was nervous thinking, is this guy, he's made it. He's such a big name in this industry. Is he really going to talk to me? And he did. He was so humble and just took the time to talk to me. And I think there's more people that will do that. And Vinny's one of them, and so am I. And if I can help you, so I say reach out, ask for help, but get started.
So true, so true, Whitney. And how can people reach you, bud? Yeah.
Yes, they can email me, Whitney at lifebridgecapital.com, or you can call or text 540-585-4338. That's my personal cell phone number.
How nice.
I learned that from you, Vinny.
You know what? It's amazing because, nowadays it's so good to really be out there to bring value to everybody around you. And what does it take? But, that small 10, 15 minutes of that call from you, me, or any of the great, mentors that can change somebody's life, really.
Right.
Believe that, and I think we should reach out more, give ourselves, and again, continue doing what you're doing with me. I'm so proud of you, and much success to you and Chelsea in the adoption nonprofit. And please send me the papers. I would love to, contribute and all, and it's such a pleasure. And all of our audience, guys, hey, if you like this show, if you like what you heard today and on the episodes that I bring to you and the great professionals, please go ahead and, like our show, subscribe to it, and also look for 4 shows actually. Vinny has got 4 shows a week now, by the way. The Syndication Made Easy, Mr. Motivation, the Motivation Talk, Mr. Smiles. And then I've got the Senior Living show with my partners. We do broadcasts on Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we do Vinny and Bo show, which is on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. in the morning from Pacific. So we are doing the StreamYard. Whitney, which is
You're crushing it, Vinny.
No.
I'll add too, happy birthday. Happy birthday next week.
Next week. Yes, 27th. Thank you. I love chocolate. No, chocolates. Please visit vinneychopra.com. And if you'd like to invest with us, please visit vinneychopra.com invest. If you want loans, creative loans, branding, anything, just go to Vinney Chopra. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share this episode if you found value. And if you think someone who you know can also find value. Thank you, brother. Whitney, it's such a pleasure to have you, bud.
Pleasure to be here, Vinny.
The show, and love to have you again. You added so much value, to the audience, and God bless you with everything. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, brother. Yeah.
You too. Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be sure to listen to Mr. Smiles next week with more golden nuggets and top-notch coaching tips. You can reach him by going to vinneychopra.com. Be sure to like, comment, and share to show everyone how Mr. Smiles has brought your apartment syndication business to the next level.